Rain hammered against the large, slanted windows of the lodge as Alex Monroe unlocked the front door, keys cold and slippery in his hand. The smell of pine mixed with damp carpet hit him immediately, a familiar scent from childhood summers he'd spent here with his father. But something was off, subtle, like a shadow brushing against the corner of his eye. He stepped inside, boots leaving wet prints on the hardwood. The grand fireplace, once roaring with laughter and warmth, was cold and dusty. On the counter, an envelope sat in a pile of mail, HOA notices, bills, and a single handwritten note. "Welcome home. If you remember who you are." Alex dropped his bag, unease knotting in his stomach. He had inherited the mountain resort only last week, a sprawling, rustic paradise his father had built from nothing. He expected neglect. Yes, maybe a few unpaid bills, but this felt deliberate. The lodge creaked behind him. He froze. At first, it was just the wind, or so he told himself. But then the faint sound of movement upstairs made him frown. No one else should be here. Pushing past the dread, Alex climbed the staircase, eyes scanning the hallway. The rooms were empty, yet the air carried a strange warmth, like someone had been here recently. Opening the first guest room, he found it staged, towels neatly folded, toiletries arranged. A welcome kit, but for whom? He hadn't checked in any guests. His phone buzzed. A text from the HOA president flashed. "Call us about past collections. Urgent." His pulse quickened. He dialed immediately. "Mr. Monroe," said a clipped female voice. "We need to talk about the rents. The board, we've been handling things, and there are arrears." Alex's jaw tightened. "Arrears? How much?" There was a pause. "Approximately 5 years' worth. And, well, technically it's been collected on your behalf, but never transferred. It's complicated." The word complicated sounded like a trap. His grip on the phone tightened, nails digging into the plastic. Something about the tone, the hesitation. It wasn't just negligence. He hung up, pacing the lodge's polished hallway. His father's words echoed in his mind. "Always watch the people who handle your money." The weight of inherited responsibility hit him like a freight train. 5 years of income gone, or stolen. A sudden knock at the door startled him. He approached cautiously, heart hammering. No one outside, just a small envelope slipped under the door. He picked it up. Inside, a single key and a note in bold typed letters. "Some doors should never be opened. Some truths never found. Consider carefully." Alex stared at the note, rain streaking the windows behind him, realizing the resort, and everything he thought he knew about it, was no longer just a mountain retreat. It was a trap. Somewhere in the shadows of the towering pines, someone was watching, and they had been waiting for him. Alex sat at the long, oak dining table, a single lamp casting long shadows across scattered papers. The storm outside had turned the mountain into a gray blur, lightning flashing against the jagged peaks. His mind was racing, replaying the cryptic note and the HOA's call. 5 years of rent collected, but never sent to him. Whoever did this had a plan. He pulled out the HOA statements he'd found tucked in a drawer. Handwritten ledgers, sporadic spreadsheets, receipts that didn't match bank deposits. Something was off. Very off. Every number had been adjusted by someone with intimate knowledge of the resort's finances. Alex's first call was to the bank. A stern teller confirmed his suspicion. The deposits were real, but the funds had been redirected to a shell account months before he'd inherited the property. Panic flashed briefly, but Alex forced himself to think. He had always been good at puzzles, at spotting patterns others missed. Next, he drove up the winding mountain road to the HOA office, a nondescript building at the edge of town. Inside, filing cabinets loomed like silent sentinels. He asked for the meeting minutes from the past 5 years. The receptionist hesitated. "Mr. Monroe, those records are archived." "Very sensitive. I'm not sure you should." Alex smiled tightly. "I inherited this resort. I need the truth. Everything. Now." Minutes later, he was in a dusty back room, sifting through folders. Each page revealed more than just neglect. Altered signatures, forged approvals, strange payments to untraceable contractors. Someone had built a shadow system, siphoning money quietly. The deeper Alex dug, the more dangerous it felt. He noticed subtle surveillance. The flicker of a camera in the corner, a mirror angled too perfectly. Outside, headlights slowed, circled, and disappeared. The game was changing. Whoever controlled the HOA knew he was poking around. That night, in his lodge office, Alex cross-referenced every bank statement, every HOA ledger. Patterns emerged. Payments funneled through multiple shell accounts, sudden maintenance expenses that never happened, and meetings conveniently unrecorded. Someone was meticulous, almost obsessive. A knock on the window froze him. He turned to see a dark figure retreating into the storm. Heart pounding, he realized this wasn't just about money. It was about control, intimidation, fear. Someone wanted him to back off. Determined, Alex began setting traps of his own. Hidden cameras, discreet phone taps, digital backups of all records. He would uncover the truth slowly, methodically. The 5-year theft wasn't a simple mistake. It was orchestrated, designed to stay hidden until the right moment. By midnight, Alex had mapped the conspiracy. The HOA wasn't just a bureaucratic nuisance. It was a network of enablers, each complicit in redirecting funds. And yet, one name kept surfacing. Someone higher up, someone powerful, someone waiting to make a move once he stepped too close. Leaning back, Alex let the lodge's silence wash over him. The storm outside had quieted, but the tension inside had only grown. One thing was certain. He wasn't just fighting to reclaim stolen money. He was fighting to survive, and the closer he got to the truth, the more dangerous it would become. Somewhere in the shadows, the puppet master smiled, waiting for him to make his next move. The annual mountain resort HOA meeting was packed. Members in crisp jackets, polite smiles, the usual chatter masking undercurrents of tension. Alex stood near the back, laptop in hand, files stacked neatly. The room smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. To everyone else, it was a routine meeting. To him, it was a stage where the truth would explode. The HOA president, Linda Carr, began her speech, voice smooth, practiced. We had a strong year. Thanks to careful management and dedicated staff. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Alex. Too quick, too measured. He noted the subtle tremor in her hand. Alex tapped his laptop. The screen projected onto the wall. Graphs, transactions, bank transfers. The room went silent. Actually, he said, calm but cutting, let's review exactly where the resort's income has been going. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Members shifted, murmuring. He clicked through the years of records, highlighting the shell accounts, forged approvals, and missing funds. Each slide was a bullet point, each number a weight dropping on the room. Linda's facade cracked, her lips pressed into a thin line. That's not possible, she said, voice sharp, unsteady. There must be a mistake. Alex leaned forward. No mistake. 5 years of rent collected, never sent to the rightful owner. Not lost, not misplaced, redirected. And I have proof. He handed folders to the board members. Receipts, bank statements, recorded emails. The evidence was meticulous, irrefutable. Whispers turned to panic as members realized the depth of the conspiracy. One man tried to interrupt, stammering about clerical errors. Alex cut him off. Clerical errors don't funnel $500,000 into a phantom account. Then it happened. Linda lunged to the podium, paper scattering like leaves in a storm. You can't do this here, she yelled. Security moved closer, but Alex had anticipated this. Cameras around the room had already captured her reaction, her attempts to intimidate and lie. Outside, a photographer snapped photos through the large windows. Soon, the scandal would be public. Alex didn't need to shout. The evidence did all the talking. Members turned, some angry, some shocked, some silent. Every eye in the room was fixed on Linda, whose carefully constructed empire, deceit, was crumbling live. The sudden action came next. Linda bolted toward the exit. Alex and 2 board members pursued. In the parking lot, rain slick and cold, Linda tripped over a low curb, sprawling into a puddle. She glared up at him, furious but powerless. Alex held up his phone, showing the footage already being transmitted to local news channels. "It's over," he said, voice low. "Not just for you, but for anyone thinking they can hide behind lies." Linda's shoulders slumped. She muttered something under her breath. A threat, maybe. A curse. Alex didn't flinch. The confrontation was over. The room, the cameras, the proof, all had turned the tide. But as he watched her being escorted to a car, Alex's gut tightened. Something about her words, the way she glanced at the shadowed mountains beyond the parking lot. He knew this wasn't the end. The puppet master was still out there, and the real game had only just begun. The resort was quiet the next morning, drenched in sunlight after the storm. Snow clung to the pine needles outside, sparkling like shards of glass. Alex walked the grounds, boots crunching against the frozen gravel, a small sense of calm settling in. The HOA scandal had gone public overnight. News vans had packed up, cameras gone, but the ripple effect was everywhere. Emails, calls, social media posts from residents and guests, all echoing the same revelation. Alex Monroe had reclaimed what was rightfully his. Inside the lodge, the staff moved with cautious optimism. Housekeeping restored rooms, maintenance checked systems, and Alex went from office to office, shaking hands, reassuring those who had quietly supported him. "We're getting things back on track," he said, voice steady, but his eyes scanned every corner. He'd learned the hard way to never assume safety. Linda Carr had vanished from town quietly, her position stripped, her influence reduced to whispers. Board members who had enabled her scrambled, some apologizing, some avoiding him entirely. The local authorities had opened investigations into the missing funds. The immediate threat was neutralized. At least it seemed so. Alex sat in the main lounge, looking out at the snowy peaks. His father's vision of the resort, community, peace, escape, felt alive again, yet the lodge seemed too quiet, almost watchful. He couldn't shake the feeling that the game had only shifted. Someone had orchestrated 5 years of theft without leaving a trace. Someone who hadn't yet been exposed. He opened the latest bank statements, meticulously reviewing them. A single transaction caught his eye. A transfer amounting to a fraction of what had been stolen, routed through an offshore account under a name he didn't recognize. It was small, almost invisible, but enough to make his pulse quicken. A knock at the door startled him. He turned to see the local sheriff, older, steady-eyed. "Morning, Alex. Looks like you cleaned house." He paused, glancing at the documents on the desk. "But I'd keep one eye open. These things, they rarely end neatly." Alex nodded, heart steady but mind racing. "I know." The sheriff left. Alex returned to the window, looking at the mountains, the pines swaying in the morning light. He remembered the warning in the first note slipped under his door. Some doors should never be opened, some truths never found. He didn't have all the answers yet, and maybe he never would. But one thing was certain. The resort was his, and he would protect it. Yet somewhere beyond the peaks and shadowed valleys, someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Alex closed his laptop, took a deep breath, and walked outside. The wind cut through his jacket, cold and sharp, a reminder of the mountain's quiet authority. He lifted his gaze toward the forest, where shadows lingered beneath the trees. A branch snapped. He froze. Nothing moved, but the tension lingered, as if the mountains themselves were whispering a warning. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Alex's jaw tightened. A small, knowing smile formed. He was ready, and somewhere in the shadows, the puppet master waited.